Hi, my name is Sam. I live here on a 3-acre smallholding in North Wales in the UK, and today I'm going to show you around my garden. I have not had the best gardening year this year, but we are not talking about that today. We're not focusing on that today. We're just embracing what it is and what the garden has given me. So I've got my harvesting basket. We're just going to go out there and see what the garden's got to fill this basket for me today. So if you need a little bit of gardening joy, I'm going to try and give it to you today. Let's do it. Okay, we'll start outside. Normally we start in the tunnel, so let's mix it up a little bit. It's a tad breezy today, so please forgive me on the audio. If this doesn't pan out, then she'll be it. I'd have waited, but if I wait for non-windy days, we wait for a while around here. So let's start in my very, very messy looking corn patch. Now look at these. While this is a weedy mess, and we've accepted that, I still think we're going to get some nice fresh corn on the cobs this year, which I shall not knock. And also in here I've got some thistles, of course, but also some big old squash growing through this patch. I'm growing both candy squash, candy roaster squash I think it's called, and pink banana, and I'm not really sure how to tell the difference because neither of them have gone the colour they're going to go yet. Anywho, turning around to this section, this is a wilderness of squash. There was a wilderness of nasturtium, but they have been absolutely decimated by these little guys. And, well, I guess that's the whole point, isn't it? The bees and the wasps are still enjoying it, and hey-ho, if they're attracting the butterflies instead of anything else, then I'm good with that. Now, this used to be, this plastic fencing that looks horrible, is here purely to deter this guy, hello, from running over my garden. He doesn't do it once it's planted, but earlier in the season when it was just, tiny seedlings in a bed, you didn't distinguish between fun grassy space and just, my beds that were trying to grow things. So that's what this little fence went up for. But now, as you can see, this was my entrance and it is no longer possible to enter here. Now in here are a load of blue Hubbard squash, I think it is, because I can see some in there. Hang on, let me see if I can reach you. In there. There are loads of blue Hubbards in here. I grew them last year and they didn't take it all. I had one tiny sad looking blue Hubbard. But this year there are loads of them, and loads of them are massive. So I am very much looking forward to having a proper try of those. You can see there are some beans growing up in here. I've got 3 varieties of beans, all of which I bought from the Wales Seed Hub. Alright, so while I can't go in the way I was going into the garden, I've developed a little route through here. Okay. I have to do a bit of a hop, skip and a jump. But here you can see this one, I think, is the biggest one we have. Look at the size of that. I can barely get to it, but there you go. He's a big one, and he's gone blue, so I have to look at when I can actually harvest those. A magnificent squash here. Now over here we have got tomatillos. Tomatillos everywhere. There's going to be a theme of this garden tour, and that is uninvited tomatillos. I did not intend to plant them this year. I still have loads from last year, and yet they have decided that they want to exist. So I've just kind of accepted my fate. In here, looks like we've got a load of weeds that I probably should do something about. This is my asparagus. I planted it 2 years ago. I haven't harvested any yet, so I'm very hopeful that next year will be the year that we get our first actual asparagus. The squash have decided to come out over here as well. We have volunteer spinach all over the place. Now this baby is an Artemisia, which I started from seed, and it was a tiny plant, and now it is insanely huge, and I've just kind of let it do its thing, other than through this gap here. I had to be a bit vicious with it so that we could walk through this bit and actually get to this here trellis. So as you can see, I've got tomatoes growing up here. These are the only ones I have outside. Well, that's not true. I have a couple of teensy tiny tim plants in the raised bed, but other than that, these are the only ones I have outside. I've got to be honest with you, I'm not sure what they are. I had a bit of a tomato disaster this year with regards to labelling. I did label them, and then at some point they became unlabelled. So it's been a tomato surprise. They all just went in as I got to them. As when I was planting them out, it was just whichever one came first went in the hole. And most of the ones in the tunnel are obvious to me, whereas these are not obvious to me. So if you have a clue, please do tell me. They look like this. Oh, we've got a nice hole in this one. They're quite good size. I'm not sure. These look like San Marzanos in here. This one, oh, the shape of that is quite distinctive. And then this is some kind of cherry. I didn't think I grew any cherries this year, and yet this is most certainly a cherry tomato. So who knows? Then we've got some runner beans. Now, I'll show you in the tunnel soon that there is a monster runner bean plant in there. Makes this one look quite puny, but nonetheless, I direct sowed those, and that's the first success I've had direct sowing beans in this garden, because usually they just get eaten by rodents. So the runner beans must just be that bit less appealing. And then these magnificent bean plants. They've got some pink flowers. Okay, I think that's the first flower I've seen on here, and that's helpful because I will use that to determine which one this is. The plants look great, but I haven't had anything off of them yet, so we'll have to see. Then more spinach, more weeds, but over here is my beetroot patch. Now this has been the most reliable bit of my garden, I think, in that we've been eating beetroot all season. That is an absolute monster. But as you can see, this is just what we've got left. I have started some more so that they can take over in a couple of months' time. But we have had consistent beetroot, which has been amazing. And then over here we've got a load of parsley in amongst the weeds. This curly kale, which just will not die. I think it's about 18 months old now, this plant. I keep hacking it down and it just keeps putting out more leaves. So I shan't complain about that. And then back into the sea of squashes. Okay, so coming around this side of my wormwood and my trellis, we've got, this is spinach that's all gone to seed in the middle, but this side of it are my onions, and they are looking pretty darn good, if I do say so myself. This one is a beast. And these are more just reasonable size. No onions have gone to seed yet this year, touch wood. And they're actually looking really good. They're just starting to go over, so I would imagine it will be harvesting time for this little patch very soon. And then on this side we've got red onions. They less successful than the white ones. Still, we'll use them. They won't go to waste. And then if I turn you around, we've got another squash forest. Again, this could be a candy roaster squash, or it could be a pink banana. They both look quite similar in shape and colour when they're at this stage. So I'll have to see how they turn out. There is volunteer dill everywhere in here, along with the spinach, obviously. Spinach everywhere, dill everywhere. I didn't plant any of this. This is all just volunteers from last year. And then up these poles, which I've tried to reinforce with this piece of wood because they are risking falling over, is some more of my beans. Now these ones have nice white flowers, but we actually do have some beans on these, as you can see here. So I'm going to get my basket. Before I do, look at the size of this baby. Now what do we reckon? Candy roaster squash or pink banana? Any of you who have more experience with winter squash than me, please do weigh in. Okay, I've got my basket. Let's grab some of these green beans, because these will be my first green beans of the season, which is a bit mental, but at the same time, I've never had great luck with green beans here. since moving to Wales. I used to live in the south of England where the green beans grew easy. Here, I think it's the wind and the dampness. The slugs just seem to love the young plants of the green beans, so I do struggle to grow them. That is why I got local seeds this year, and look, I reckon these plants have a lot left to give. I'm just going to take the ones that are really looking ready, and then we'll leave these plants to continue. Oh, I'm quite excited to try these. I need to work out which variety is which. My first little green bean harvest. Very excited. I'm going to get in there and see if there's any more. Okay, over here in the raised bed, these are the tiny Tim tomato plants I was saying. And they are cute. Look how cute they are. They're tiny, tiny little plants. That's probably about 30 centimetres, a foot tall. But it is so dense. And they're really compact. It's really cool. They got, oh, I've just broken a tomato off. Oh no, I haven't. Yeah, they've got these teensy tiny little fruits on them. Interested to see how they turn out. I've got 3 of these little plants in here. I did gift a couple of these plants to people who I know live in the city and are interested in growing their food, but they've got pots, and I think this would be great for that. I feel like they look a bit silly. That's just piece of netting has just grown into whatever's growing in here, so I've just had to let that be. Yeah, I feel like these plants are a little bit silly in here when I've got all of this space, but they would be a great option if you were space limited. We've got more beetroot in here just because I stick beetroot in all of the time, and these are Cape gooseberry plants and I've never grown them before. These are intentional, unlike the tomatillos, even though the plants look very similar. You can see they've got the same kind of little lanterns that the fruit grows in, but they feel like velvet. It's so lovely. So hopefully we'll get a good harvest of Cape gooseberries, because I really do like them. I've just never grown them before. I got more of these in the tunnel. I just thought I'd put some outside to see how they did. And this was my potato patch. We have harvested a good deal of potatoes. As you can see, there's still a few plants in there, but we've taken most of them out now. Didn't have a great harvest, but a reasonable one, so I'm okay with it. And then this is my summer squash courgette situation. Now, I've only had a couple of courgettes so far off of this smaller plant. This massive one I hadn't had anything off of while it got huge, but as you can see now, it is absolutely full of fruit. So I need to get in here and do a proper harvest, and then I need to work out what to do with courgettes. This one's funny, he's like 2 merged into one. You are a funny looking fella. But hey ho, you're coming with me. Sting a nettle in there, so that one can stay for now. Now let's get in here. This one definitely looks like it's ready. Ow. Oh, lost the top, but it's all good. Any more that definitely need to come out of here. Oh yeah, we'll have this one. I think that's it for the ones that are desperate to come out of here, so I will try to use these today, knowing that tomorrow there'll be plenty more. Then this raised bed never really got finished. It is a non-intentional wildflower bed at the moment. These are foxgloves. Look how many of them there are. We've got the wood ready. We just didn't get around to finishing it before the rest of the things took over, so this is on the list for over the winter, is to prep this bed so that come next season we'll have 2 raised beds to be doing. I showed in my most recent video the reclaiming of this brassica cage. It's a bit dodgy, but it's much better than not having it at all. I got the brassicas in, but a lot of the damage was already done by the cabbage whites, because these poor guys are outside until I got them in here. So as you can see, they've been a bit ravaged. So I'm just trying to come in here every day, give them a once over, and find any stowaways that may have made it in here, because every time I come in here there are more. And I don't think there's been butterflies in here. I think that they are just, you know, eggs or tiny ones I'm missing. So I'm having to just come in here and make sure I'm picking them all off, because Oh, sorry, I can't hold you there and do this. I'm coming in here every day, multiple times a day, and picking them off. I'm not sure I'm winning, to be honest. I think they might be winning and I might be losing, but I've started more. Oh, I've accidentally squished that caterpillar on my hand. I've started more brassicas. If these fail, then by the time I'm ready to give up on these ones, the next round will be ready. So it's all good. I'll just do what I can for now, and if they make it, they make it. If they don't, we'll replace them, and that's fine. Honestly, they're just so camouflaged. Oh, sorry about that slight interlude while I went on a bit of a murdering spree. It's very frustrating. It's very frustrating to keep finding them, no matter how many times I come in here and pick them off. But hey ho. But hey ho. It's what it is. We're not focusing on the bad. Let's carry on. Alright, let's mix it up. My polytunnel actually does have a back door. I never come in here because it has not been accessible until very recently. There's a hedgerow right there, and sometimes it takes over. But anywho, we're in the back door. This is my grapevine, and can I just say, holy wow to the level of growth this year. I know nothing about growing grapes, what I should have done pruning wise and all that. I am not a grape expert. I just thought it would be really cool to have a grapevine in here that I could train to come along here, because then not only can I get some grapes, but I can also get a bit of shade in here, because it does get silly hot when the sun's on it. And look, we do actually have some grapes now. I did, oh, I've been bitten. I did try one of these, and holy moly was it tart. And there's more in here, as you can see. They are tiny, tiny little fruits. I don't really know enough about grape growing to know what I need to do with those. I'm going to research it over the winter. But for now, there's grapes. The plant looks great, so I'm happy with it. Okay, so this is the view of the tunnel at the mow. That's my chair. That's where I like to just chill. Now, as you might notice here, we've got a load of these, which are celosia. Now, last year, I accidentally planted a celosia in here with my peppers, because as seedlings, you can probably see, you can imagine anyway, that the seedlings look remarkably similar to a pepper seedling. And it came in here last season with my peppers, and it grew and it looked fabulous, so I left it. But now, of course, I've got them volunteering literally everywhere, which, yeah, anywho. Now, tomato gate for this year. I think this one is an Alicante. I got the seeds with this polytunnel. They gave us a little pack of seeds to get started, I guess, and I didn't sow them last year, but I have sown them this year, and I think that's what that is. They are quite tasty. We don't use these sort of mid-sized round tomatoes very often. Well, we do. We use them all if we grow them, but I don't necessarily have an intended use for them. But they seem to be growing pretty readily in here. Is this that, or is this I think this one might be a bloody butcher because it's got the potato leaves on it. And they feel a bit softer and a bit less perfectly round than my Alicantes. I don't know if you can see the slight shape difference there. These bloody butchers also seem to ripen to really, really red on the bottom, and then we stay a little bit greeny yellow on top, whereas what I think is the Alicante are a bit more uniform. I've had a nice little foray into identification of tomato plants this year, which I didn't expect. But I'm just going to grab all of the red tomatoes in here and we'll take them in. But carrying back along this line, these peppers, my mother gave me the seeds for these. She got them out of a pepper that they really enjoyed from the shop and gave me the seeds, and holy wow, look at the size of this pepper. And these plants have got loads of fruit on them. I'm so chuffed with how they look, and I am just very anxiously awaiting some ripening so I can see what they taste like, because I think they would just make amazing stuffed peppers. Now this plant here, I think is a gherkin. I've not done any pickling, so they just keep getting overgrown. As you can see here, this is what happens if you let a cucumber go too long, and these just go to the chickens. I'm not proud, but it is what it is. There's loads of fruit on this one. I need to be getting them sort of this kind of size and pickling them, but I don't really, it just hasn't really happened. But nonetheless, the chickens are enjoying it, so I shan't complain. Now these tomato plants are my find of the year. These came from the Wales Seed Hub also, and they are Lulu's favourite. They are a beefsteak variety, and they are delicious. I have never been a beefsteak tomato gal because, well, I don't really eat raw tomatoes, but I do now because these are so nice. They're so meaty. They're great for your salads, but they kind of have a dual purpose because I can also, I've left my basket somewhere, because they are thick. They are thick and meaty enough to then just go into sauces if you're cooking, if I've got extras, so they're really handy. And Nigel does like a raw tomato, and he will have a salad, and usually I do plums or cherries for him for that purpose, but he is really enjoying these instead, so I think next year I might just focus on these. Right, let's carry on up here. I'm definitely going to take this big green one, because I could still eat him like a cucumber. Sometimes the skins get a little bit thick, but I don't mind just either eating around it or lopping the skins off. Now this plant, this cucumber plant, is a crystal lemon. This is my favourite variety of cucumber that I grow. I think it's not necessarily 100% my favourite with regards to its texture. It's pretty nice, but it's just so reliable and it just never goes bitter. I've grown a couple of greenhouse varieties this year, and while they're lovely when they're nice, when they go bitter they're awful, and you don't know until you bite into it. Whereas these I've been growing for years and I've never had a bitter one. And you get these, I mean this one's quite big, but you get sort of tennis ball sized fruits off of it, and they are so nice, they're easy, the skins aren't too hard. If they go yellow, like really yellow, the skin does start to get a bit tough, but this level of just starting to go yellow on one side is perfect for me. Another thing I love about this plant is that there is always something on it. There's always a cucumber ready to be picked. Now this variety of tomato is also a new one for me this year, and it is a Big Mama saucing tomato, and they are pretty darn good. I like them. I'll circle back to talking about them when we get to another plant. Now these little cuties, this is my birdhouse gourd. I think he started all the way over there. Now there's a tomatillo growing in him because there's a tomatillo growing in everything, but he has come all the way out here. Now he was quite slow to get started and there wasn't a lot going on, whereas now I can see tiny birdhouse gourds all over the place. These little guys, look at them. This one down here is pretty big, so I had lost hope a little bit, but I think we might get some birdhouse gourds, which will be awesome. This is more of those peppers from my mum's pepper. They went in the ground a few weeks afterwards, so they're a little bit further behind. But this over here, in amongst all the weeds, is a loofah. And again, I had given up hope. I mean, this is a tub full of crud, but this is a loofah. Now he went out here too early, he stalled, didn't like it. I think it was just a bit too cold for him, but he's picked back up and look, got a little loofah fruit. I really don't think there'll be enough time for that to be a loofah, but I'm going to leave him in here and see how he does, because it would be cool. So the loofah is mostly tucked around there and he keeps poking out behind this door. This guy is all the birdhouse gourd. His flowers are just so cool, coming out from over here. Now there's tomatillo in here because there's always tomatillo. On the one hand, they're thugs that I can't seem to get rid of. On the other hand, the bees love them. I don't dislike tomatillos. I just have loads, but I just need to up the rate in which I eat them apparently because they like it in here. And then in here I've got some basil. This is Genevieve's basil. It never does particularly great for me. This is about as good as I can hope for. That's a Thai Towers think is what it's called, the Thai basil, and they do much better. The flavour is a bit less delicate. I don't know if that's the right word, but if you know basil, maybe you know what I mean. But it grows so happily here that I'm just happy to have it. Now these tomatoes in the middle are all San Marzanos up to here. I tried this method this year with the wire, so I buried this wire in with the plant when they were seedlings. It just went under the root ball, and I've been trying to just wind the main stem around this wire as they grow up, all the way up to the ceiling. And it seems to be going okay. A couple of them have had some disasters. You know, we've got some serious leaning going on. They're not quite as tight as they could be, but all in all, I'm quite happy with it, I think. It's much better than the bamboo because they just fall over and then end up poking holes in my polytunnel. So I think I will continue with this system. Again, another tomatillo. You can see I keep trying to hack them off, but they just love life. I don't think they are possible to murder. I've tried to keep my pruning pretty tight on the San Marzanos this year because I love this variety for cooking with, but they do blight quite easily where I am. Anyway, it's very humid here, so I've tried to keep it as well pruned as I've had the capability of doing this year, and so far so good. I'm just grabbing all the ripe or nearly ripe ones, and we'll get another batch of sauce on the go. If they're touching the floor, I take them a bit earlier just because otherwise they just get got by the rodents and the bugs if they're too easily accessible. Now you can see from all of this that when I prune, unless there's disease, I tend to just let it fall. Let it be one with the ground. Another tomatillo. Oh look, another tomatillo. But honestly, I think I've had a better year with these San Marzanos than I did last year. And they were good last year. But look, the amount of fruit on these plants. It's actually blowing my mind a bit how many trusses and how much fruit is on them. I think they like being in front of this door. I think it gets quite hot in here. And the tomatoes down that end where you've got the hedgerow the other side, it doesn't get as much breeze through there and it gets really, really hot. Whereas down here, you get the breeze through and that's just enough to keep the temperature down because they've been dropping flowers down that end without forming fruits, whereas I barely had any of that on this side of the tunnel. Swing you around here. This is parsley plant. He was planted from a supermarket, live parsley. Didn't mean to buy him. Came as a substitution and I wasn't here to tell them no thank you. I was trying to get a live thyme to plant because my thyme isn't doing great and they were on offer like 50p or something. Anyway, they brought me parsley instead, so we bunged it in the ground over winter and it was a massive, massive parsley plant. I completely hacked it down and it's gone for a second round of going to seed. These two pepper plants here are jalapenos. I've only done 2 jalapeno plants this year because I've still got some in the freezer from last year. I did loads of hot peppers last year and while we do like them, we obviously don't go through them as quickly as I thought we would. So I've just done the 2 jalapenos this year. I've done no other hot peppers because I've still got a load of cayenne and a load of what they called Carolina Reapers, which I'm too scared to use, in my freezer. These ones are another Wales Seed Hub purchase and they are a yellow stuffing pepper, and let's see if we can find some ripe ones. As you can see here, they are these tiny little peppers. Basically just like a little snacker. They're not always this small, but these ones are ripe, so I'm going to take them. They've all kind of fallen over onto each other and I've just let it happen a little bit. Let's make sure they don't seem to mind being in one big bush. So here you go, we've got more ripe ones in here. We did put these on a barbecue and just char them up a bit on the barbie, and they were lovely. But with how tiny the fruits are, while I like them, I'm not super eager at this time of year when things are otherwise very busy to go be doing a stuffing of them, just because, oh, you're a bit soft. Just because they're so tiny and it would just take ages. Some of them are a much better size, but there's a lot of really tiny ones, which, yeah, I'm not mad about. I'm happy to just eat them as they are. Oh, there's more in there. As you can see, more tomatillos. Tomatillos absolutely everywhere. These were not intended. I've hacked this plant down as well, but I think this is one of those don't fight it moments. Right, let's get these ones. He's got a bit of a hole in him, so I'm gonna leave him out here, because every time there's a hole in a pepper, and I cut it open, there are always earwigs in it. I'm not sure if it's the earwigs that are actually doing the damage in the first place, because they look like slug holes. But either way, once there's a hole in there, they're just perfect earwig home, and I don't love that. They just move so quick, and then they're all scurrying around my kitchen. Does not fill me with joy. Right, this guy was a straw flower. Well, I use the straw flower. Look how pasty they are. He's been in here all over winter, and he's just going to seed now. I should really do something about this, otherwise I'm going to end up with 6 million straw flower plants in here next year. But this has been the only on-purpose flower in here all season, and the pollinators love it, and it's given me loads of joy. I have taken a good number of flowers. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, so at some point I just left it to be what it is. I'm not mad that it's been here. Now on this side, these peppers are California Wonder. Oh, someone's had a chomp of you. I better take that before it goes too far. These, he's got some holes. These are California Wonder. I grew these last year. They are amazing. These blow my mind, just because, oh, look at that one. Look at you. Yeah, so these absolutely blew my mind last year, just because I really just didn't believe that I would be able to grow good size bell peppers here in North Wales. I mean, obviously I need a tunnel. These would not do outside. But the fact that we can do this, grow a good size, really sweet, really fresh bell pepper, is so exciting to me. So exciting. These plants did so well. They're doing well again this year, which is amazing. They're interesting because they go from green to red. They don't do a yellow in between, which I think is, well, I think it's interesting. Oh, okay, I'm going to come back to the harvesting of the peppers because I've got stinging nettles. There's some nettles in there, so I will get some gloves. But I'll pop these two in my basket. There we go. So these ones over here. Now I think I grew some little plums from a supermarket tomato. And that's what this is. They make some very good looking trusses, but they've not been very good. They've been, I mean, they are all F1s. All of these, you know, shop bought plum tomatoes are all F1 varieties, so you've got no guarantee they're going to come true to the fruit that you got from the supermarket. But sometimes they do for me and sometimes they don't. Win some, you lose some. Again, as I say, next year I'm probably going to go for the big beefsteaks instead, or maybe some Sungolds, because they're still my favourite. Anyway, this here with these big massive plums is, well, we don't want you, whatever you are, no thank you, is the big mama. And as you can see, this has fallen off of its wire. This was its wire, it was going up there. We had a big rain. I think these fruits took on a load of the water and he fell off his wire. So I'm going to need to trellis him back up. But I think these are just so huge and so heavy that they need a little bit more support than your average tomato plant. Oh dear. Well, you can be a chicken food one then. Oh my gosh, I'm not sure what's happened here. Oh, I see. The wire is completely out of the ground. Right, well in that case, I'll pop him back down, and that's a more significant fix job required. I'm just going to take the ripe fruit or anything that's blushed that is touching the ground so that they don't become chicken food. Oh dear, that one has just come out of the ground while I've been stood here. Okay, so these guys, the big mamas, are heavy. Now, I wasn't sure the wire would work for this method of trellising the tomatoes, just because there's nothing, where it's just plastic coated wire, there's nothing for the roots to get a hold of. You know, if it was some sort of woven twine or something, the roots could grow in it. So I was worried about it, but the San Marzanos have been fine with these lines, and the Nagina, which I'll talk about in a second. I think these are just too heavy and it's not enough, so noted for next year. These I am fair. Oh no, that's a San Marzano, you can tell by shape. Whereas these over here are Nagina, I think, because they are a slightly different shape, but they are still a sourcing plum variety. Now these are I think Crimson Crush is also what they're called, and they are blight resistant. So while they are a bit wetter, a bit more seedy than the San Marzanos and the Big Mamas, they are quite blight resistant, which I can't shirk the value of that living where I live, where it's very, very wet and humid. I've got another cherry tomato here now. I'm pretty sure this was a volunteer and I just allowed it to grow. But you see that along this twine is absolutely fine. That's not going anywhere. But the weight on this is so much less than with these massive fruits on this thing. So this monstrosity in here is my runner bean plant. I mean, I did intentionally plant him, but I planted him in August of last year, and they didn't really do anything, and they didn't come to much. It got cold quite early last year, and that was that. So I just kind of forgot about them, and this grew out of what was left of that plant in the ground, out of the same roots, which blew my mind a little bit. Oh, look at this guy. So I wouldn't normally grow beans in the tunnel. They need pollinating, so it's not the most ideal place for them, but also they can grow fine outside in theory, although look how much happier this plant is in here than anything outside. And I mean, that is true for pretty much anything I trial growing in the tunnel, and I think that's just because of the wind. There's no wind in here, and there is a boatload of wind outside pretty much all the time, and not many things like wind, so that is just what it is. Let's grab some of these runner beans. Now runner beans are not, I prefer a French bean if I'm honest, just because runner beans are just that little bit stringier, a bit tougher, but with having so many of them this year, I have had to come up with new ways to cook them, and actually I'm really enjoying them, so I'm not mad that I've got so many. In fact, they've kept my bean cravings at bay while it's taken so long for my green beans to come in. So I'm not mad, I am enjoying them. Will I grow more of them? Probably. I'll do a small number of runner beans every year, I think, just because they are that little bit easier to grow. They do seem to just want to. With the green beans, they don't appreciate, it's not that warm here, and it is very windy, and that's just all things they don't want from me, but it's what I've got to give. So I think just to make sure I always have beans, I will probably always grow a small number of runner bean plants. I don't really want a ridiculous harvest of them because, as I say, they're not my most favourite. Oopsie. Not my most favourite thing out of. Oopsie. Yeah, they're not my most favourite thing out of the garden. I would much rather have runner beans than no beans at all. I'm not sure that I would give it space in a tunnel again, but then, as I say, it wasn't really by design. Excuse me, I want that. It wasn't really by design. Okay, there's a ton more on here I could be taking, but for now, I'm going to call it. The reason I say I wouldn't give space to them in the tunnel again is because look how tragic the tomato plants are that have been next to it. You know, it's just, it's too hungry, it's too greedy, and I think the neighbouring plants have suffered for that. Now this guy is another Cape gooseberry. There's one in the raised bed outside, and these ones are in here. They're a little bit further along, but that is what you would expect being in the tunnel. And he's got a lot of these little lanterns on him, so I'm hopeful that we'll get some fruit. And then this here is a new variety of cucumber to me. The lower leaves are starting to look a bit tragic now. It's given me a lot of fruits, and I would say about 50% of them have been good. So the fruits off of this La Diva, I think is the variety name, cucumber, have been perfect looking, you know, like perfect shop bought cucumbers, a foot long, green, good diameter, really crisp, and 50% of the time they've been horrifically bitter, and there is no way to know without cutting a bit off and biting into it. And it's been a bit disheartening for the variety, because when they've been good, they've been really good, just perfect. But I really hate picking one thinking I've got a cucumber in the house and it being horrible. So I think realistically I need less fussy varieties. The temperature does vary quite a lot in this tunnel because I'm in North Wales. It's not the hottest place in the world, but as soon as the sun hits the tunnel, we don't really have enough ventilation in here that it does get stupid hot, you know. If it's too windy I have to close it up just because it's too much risk of it taken off. So sometimes it does get stupid hot in here, and I just don't think that this greenhouse variety is appreciating that, whether it's too hot or whether it's just the swings, because obviously as soon as there's not sun on it, it drops back down. The tunnel doesn't really keep heat, especially not overnight, so it is getting quite the fluctuation of temperature. So I wonder if that is what has caused it to not be great. But that being said, the crystal lemon, I've never had a bitter one, so I'm starting to think that perhaps that's a better option for me. But I never want to rely on just one variety of something, so I'm glad I tried these this year. I just don't necessarily think I will do it again. I want something a bit more reliable if I'm going to give that kind of space to a plant in here, knowing what I can get off of the crystal lemon with regards to the fruit. They go all season and they just keep giving me fruit every single day. I'll come out here and I can take 1 or 2 cucumbers. I'll have a couple of plants of those, and then I know I've got all the cucumbers I want. But as I say, I don't ever really want to rely on one variety of anything, because just in case something happens that year, you know, the seeds aren't good or the conditions just don't suit it for whatever reason that you couldn't predict. So yeah, if you've got any recommendations for other cucumber varieties that might do well in a place like this, then do let me know. Okay, then we've got this last little row of tomatoes here. Now there was a big kale in here that I've just taken out and fed to the birds. So between this massive Rana bean plant, that big kale that was in here, and all these celosia volunteers, this side hasn't done quite as well. They're okay. We've had loads of these big beefsteak variety, Lulu's favourites that I talked about earlier, off of these, and they have been a hit. Everyone who has come here has loved these. Yeah, they're doing okay. I just don't think they're doing as well as they could. Oh, a cup of tea. Thank you. So that's just something to bear in mind for next year. I think this again is another big mama over here. I've just gone in with the birds. Alright, I think we've got a full basket, so that might do it. Now these big beefsteaks, I do pull them early as soon as they're blushing, just because we get a lot of rain here and I don't want them to burst and therefore become bug food. So I'm happy to pull them at this level and then bring them in and let them finish ripening inside. Whew, there we go. I think that is about where I'm at with my garden. This has probably been a long one, so sorry about that. Pretty happy that this is the only tomato that's chicken food, so I'm going to go take that to them and take my wares inside. Hello! You don't like them? Come on, have it. Oh, I squirted a goose. There you go.
Particularly.
No, they just don't want the chickens to have it. Chickens always like them.
Thanks, it's free.
Oh, you're so mean.